Welcome to the deep dive.
Okay, so today, we're not just watching the game. We're actually going pretty deep into the whole structure that makes the NBA tick. Forget the players for a second. We're looking at all the different career paths, within the league and the teams. For those of us maybe not destined for the court.
Absolutely. And we've gathered some really interesting stuff for you. We'll be digging into, well, everything from those first jobs, those entry-level spots, all the way to like the strategy behind scouting, the whole data analytics revolution, game day operations, how that works. And we even get some perspectives from people actually working inside the NBA and the WNBA right now.
Yeah, so our mission, really, for you listening, is to give you a proper understanding of these roles. What skills do you actually need? How might you even get into the NBA world? We're hoping for some of those, aha moments, maybe some surprising facts that could, I don't know, spark a new idea for you. Okay, so where should we start? How do we unpack all this? Right. Let's kick off with those first steps. Getting your foot in the door if you're not playing. We looked at some key entry-level type jobs that could be a starting point.
Okay, first one, assistant box office manager. Now, you might just think, oh, tickets.
Right, selling tickets.
And yeah, it is selling season tickets, group plans, all that, but it's getting a bit more complex, isn't it?
It is. Teams are really using that ticket data now to understand fans, figure out engagement.
So yeah, strong communication, sure. A bachelor's degree, that's kind of the baseline. But really understanding how those sales link up to the bigger picture, that seems key.
Exactly. And building on that fan idea, you've got the event coordinator.
Ah, yeah. All the buzz around the game, right? Pre-game stuff, halftime.
This role handles the logistics behind all that. Transportation, schedules, AV setups, making sure it all runs smoothly. And what's interesting here is, like you said, with ticketing, they're using data from these events too. Feedback helps them tailor future events, boosts loyalty, so it's more strategic than just operations.
Makes sense. So a hospitality degree helps. Event experience.
Yeah, usually a good start. And it's a growing area, apparently. High growth expected there.
Okay, then there's the marketing and promotions assistant. This sounds pretty central.
It really is. You're involved in the team's message, publications, website stuff, promo materials, even player media content.
Feels like a busy one.
Oh, definitely demanding. You'd probably need a marketing, journalism, or PR degree, and you've got to be super organized, thrive in that fast pace.
But it could be a great way in, right, to shape how fans see the team. And we heard it's often seen as like a training ground for future brand managers.
Yeah, exactly. Getting that early exposure to fan engagement is seen as really valuable long term. Then another key role facing the public is the media relations assistant.
A contact point for fans and media.
Precisely. So communication skills have to be top-notch. Writing, speaking, and being really detail-oriented. You're writing press releases, handling media requests.
That sounds like experience that could really, open doors later on.
For sure.
Okay, let's switch gears a bit. Player well-being. Starting with the athletic trainer.
Right. The folks right there on the sidelines, preventing, treating muscle and bone issues.
They need to make quick calls on injuries, right? Work with doctors on recovery plans.
Exactly. And designing those injury prevention programs, too. That's huge.
And it's not about being a great athlete yourself, is it? It's the knowledge, the certifications.
Correct. Deep knowledge and the right certs, like from the board of certification, that's what matters. Experience from universities or medical places is a big plus.
And working closely with them is the physical therapist.
Yep. Focused on getting athletes back to, peak condition after an injury, working hand in hand with trainers and doctors.
The path there is usually a bachelor's, maybe psychology even, then a master's or doctorate.
That's the typical route, yeah. Often with a sports medicine focus later on. And like event coordination, this is another field with a really strong growth outlook.
Okay, now this is where I think things get really interesting lately. The statistician or data analyst?
Oh, yeah. This field has just blown up in the NBA.
Using data for, well, almost everything, isn't it? Who to draft, how to play.
Pretty much. You need at least a bachelor's, usually. But higher degrees, even PhDs, are becoming more common.
We saw that example of John Hollinger, right? From ESPN columnist to VP of basketball ops for the Grizzlies.
Yeah, that really shows the impact these data people are having. It's not just theory anymore.
Okay, let's move on to scouting. This is a role lots of people are curious about, I think.
Definitely. But there are some romantic ideas about it that maybe don't quite line up with reality.
Like what? Less glamour, more grind.
Pretty much. It's less about fancy hotels and more about hitting multiple cities back to back, tons of travel, and then a lot of focused work writing detailed reports, gathering background info.
So it's real evaluation.
Yeah.
Deconstruction, you called it. Not just watching games for fun.
Exactly.
And how they watch is different too, right? Not just following the ball.
Totally. They're looking at warm-ups, how players react during the game, good moments, bad moments, how they interact with coaches, teammates.
Even officials and fans. During timeouts. On the bench.
All of it. Those subtle things that go way beyond just, can they shoot or pass?
And that old idea of discovering some unknown kid, that's mostly gone.
Largely, yeah. With so much coverage now, it's more about spotting the tiny details, the nuances, and building these massive databases on tons of players.
It's also not just one scout job, is it? There are different types.
Right. You've got advanced scouts looking at the next opponent, college scouts, international scouts covering amateurs and pros overseas,
Yeah.
G League scouts, and then pro personnel scouts who are just evaluating players already on other NBA teams for trades. It's really specialized. One person can't do it all.
But their opinions matter, right?
Yeah.
Inside the organization, even if they go against the grain.
Hugely important. Teams rely on their insights, even if it's not what the public thinks or what mock drafts say.
And the time commitment. Watching film. It sounds intense.
It is. Hours and hours. Every day, watching full games, sometimes skimming, sometimes focusing on just one player, replaying things over and over.
Plus attending games live.
Plus the live games. Yeah, it's a massive time sink.
What about the reports they write? Do they vary?
Yeah, they can differ between teams, but generally they go beyond just skills. They'll include notes on body language, attitude, interactions. Some are super detailed, like multi-page things. Others might be more concise, maybe just a page or a few paragraphs.
And scouts aren't always right, are they? We heard about some big names who were underestimated initially.
Oh, absolutely. It's part of the job. We saw examples like people missing Klay Thompson's two-way potential.
Yeah.
Or how fast Jokic developed.
Isaiah Thomas being draftable, Draymond Green's overall impact, James Harden becoming an MVP.
Exactly. It just shows how hard evaluating talent really is. There's no perfect formula.
What about the relationships between scouts from different teams? Is it cutthroat?
Surprisingly, maybe not as much as you'd think. It's often described as kind of a fraternity. There's a mutual understanding of how tough the job is. I mean, sure, there's probably some quiet information gathering about who's watching who, but generally it seems quite cordial.
So if someone listening wants to become a scout, what's the advice?
Build relationships. That came up again and again. It's critical. Know the game inside out, obviously, and be realistic about the travel and the impact on your life, your family. And apparently, having good, unique sources for info is gold.
Are they underappreciated? Maybe by fans, but not by the teams.
That seems to be the consensus. Fans might overlook them, but organizations value them highly. And a lot of scouts actually prefer staying out of the spotlight. They like the independence.
Okay, and finally on scouting, some teams just have a reputation for being great at it, right?
Definitely. The Spurs always come up. Their international network, their consistency.
OKC's draft record, Durant, Westbrook, Harden, Ibaka, that's incredible.
Yeah, right. And Golden State more recently, finding value with Curry, Thompson, Green.
Others mentioned were the Heat, Pacers, Bulls, Bucks, Nuggets. Even the Knicks, with Kevin Wilson, got a shout-out.
Yeah, several teams known for strong scouting departments.
Okay, let's shift again to analytics, the data side of things. This feels increasingly huge.
It is, and we found this really compelling MIT study that actually tried to quantify the impact analysts have on winning.
This is fascinating. So the study found a direct link. More analytics staff equals more wins.
Pretty much, yeah. Teams that invest more in analytics staff tend to win more games. And that was even after accounting for things like payroll, player experience, coaching stability, injuries.
Wow. So it's not just about having the star players.
Nope. And they even put a value on it. They figured out that roughly every 4/5 of a data analyst adds about one extra win per season.
One win. How does that compare, like financially?
Like, get this. The study suggested a team would need to spend about $9.6 million more on player salaries to get that same single extra win.
Whoa. Okay, so that really makes you think. Are analysts maybe undervalued compared to players?
It certainly raises the question, doesn't it?
Where did the researchers even get this data? Team spending isn't public, right?
Right. So they used publicly available info, things from ESPN.com, NBAstuffer.com, which pulls together staff lists from press releases, team websites, LinkedIn, news reports.
So they use headcount the number of analysts as the best proxy for investment.
Exactly. Given the lack of transparency on actual spending, headcount was the best metric they had.
And just to be clear, they did control for other factors, salary, injuries, even those tough road back-to-backs.
Yes, they tried to account for all those major factors.
Yeah.
Roster salary, experience, coaching changes, games lost to injury, road trips. The fact that the analytics staff size still showed up as a significant predictor of wins, well, it really says something about how important data has become.
Okay, let's go behind the scenes now. Game night. What actually happens? We looked at the Portland Trail Blazers game ops team.
Yeah, this gives a great picture of the organized chaos, maybe, that goes into making it all look smooth for the fans.
So there's the director, the manager, but then a whole unseen crew in a control room.
A big crew. Camera operators, people running the big screens, replays, music, lighting, production staff, a whole team coordinating everything.
And the prep beforehand is intense, like actual scripts.
Yep, detailed scripts, sometimes 40, 50 pages long. They coordinate with partnerships for all the contests and prizes. They have meetings just to go through the script page by page.
Making sure every T is crossed.
Pretty much. Then on game day, it's all about execution. Managing the timeouts, dancers, contests, getting props and people in place.
And constant communication. Headsets linking the floor to the control room. Coordinating with the announcer.
Constant chatter, yeah. Making sure everything happens exactly on cue.
But it's not just game days for them, is it?
No, they also do bigger public events like those 3-on-3 tournaments or fan rallies, engaging the community, reaching fans who maybe can't always get to games.
And the motivation behind it all. What
Yeah.
drives that team?
From what we saw, it really seems to be about using basketball as a platform, creating positive moments, fun experiences for fans, win or lose.
That's cool. Okay, so stepping back again, the sheer variety of jobs within the NBA and WNBA is pretty striking.
It really is. We saw some great examples.
Like software engineers and tech and ops, building digital products for fans worldwide.
Yeah, or people working directly for the WNBA on events, working closely with the teams.
Photography, getting those real-time action shots to all the teams. That sounds high pressure, but cool.
Definitely. Then marketing partnerships, media planning, making those big sponsorship deals actually happen.
And on the basketball side, talent acquisition recruiting for the basketball departments.
Yep, supporting hiring needs there. And we even heard about people starting in retail, like the NBA store, and moving into corporate roles.
Creative services, too, doing broadcast graphics. And internships there can lead to jobs.
Right. Or digital media systems and tech, building the tech to deliver game clips and highlights. Applying technical skills directly to basketball.
Partner services, liaising with global partners, merchandising partnerships, even specific roles in diversity, equity, and inclusion.
And creative services again, but on the business side, handling the league's branding across everything. It's way more than just players and coaches. It's a whole ecosystem.
Okay, so the big question for a lot of listeners might be, how do I actually get one of these jobs? What did our sources say about breaking in? The advice, the realities.
Well, number one, consistently, was networking.
Ah, the classic. Relationships are currency, someone said.
Exactly. The advice was, be active on LinkedIn, go after internships like crazy, show up at industry events. We heard from someone formerly at the Warriors who emphasized reaching out, being persistent. And someone at the Hawks mentioned applying for literally hundreds of jobs.
Wow. Persistence is key then. And internships seem crucial for getting that first opening.
Invaluable, yeah. Getting your foot in the door, meeting people across different departments, that came up a lot.
What about resumes? Any specific tips there?
Tailoring them is vital. Using those industry keywords, sports management, athletic coordination, team leadership, variations like that to get past the applicant tracking systems, the ATS.
Makes sense. But there are challenges too, right? It's not easy.
Definitely not. Competition is fierce because, well, lots of people want to work in sports.
Which can mean lower pay sometimes.
Yeah.
Especially early on.
Yeah, that's a reality.
Yeah.
Particularly for entry level or in those really sought after areas like sports media, organizations know people want the jobs. Plus, long hours are common, demanding environments. And job security isn't always guaranteed, especially if team ownership changes. And often, these organizations are actually smaller than you might think.
But there's potential for growth. Like in sales, maybe starting lower but moving up.
There is. We heard maybe starting around 45K in entry-level sales, but potentially hitting six figures within, say, 5 years if you're successful.
But there was also feedback that maybe the pay and culture aren't always keeping pace with other industries, like brands or agencies might be better.
There was some mention of that, yeah. Something to consider. balancing the passion for the game with needing a decent salary, especially in expensive cities.
So maybe even starting in sales outside the NBA could be a strategy. Build skills, maybe earn more initially,
That was suggested as a possibility, yeah. Get experience, then try to move over.
and that who you know factor.
Yeah.
It really seems to be a big deal.
It came up repeatedly. Networking, connections, they seem crucial. And yeah, nepotism was mentioned as something that can happen too.
Any other pathways? Like GA positions at universities?
Yeah, graduate assistant roles were mentioned as another potential route in.
Okay, finally, let's look at what it's really like day to day. We focus on physical therapy as an example.
Right, drawing from an example in baseball, but the principles are similar.
So the daily grind.
Mhm.
Early start sometimes, then work by midday.
Often, yeah. Maybe some family time, then head to the facility. Lots of time prepping rehab programs, then meetings with the whole performance team, strength coaches, trainers.
To the hands-on work with injured players for several hours.
That's the core of it. Followed by watching practices, monitoring movements, then debriefing with the head trainer after games or practices, more recovery work, often leading to late nights.
So constant collaboration and juggling scheduled stuff with players just dropping in.
Exactly. Managing schedules, but also being flexible for immediate needs.
Work-life balance sounds tricky.
Yeah.
Intense during the season, maybe better in the off-season.
Pretty unconventional, yeah. Heavy commitment in season, potentially more flexibility when the season's over. Minor league life might be a bit less structured day to day, especially outside of peak times like spring training.
What are the best parts of that job?
Oh, definitely the chance to help athletes get back to doing what they love at the highest level. Being part of that team environment, seeing that elite performance up close.
And the downsides, the less amazing aspects.
The time commitment is huge. 6, sometimes 7 days a week in season. Months without a real day off isn't uncommon. Also, dealing with athletes getting advice from lots of different places, which can sometimes clash, and balancing what the team needs versus what the individual athlete might want or need.
And for women in those roles specifically, unique challenges, but maybe good support networks too.
Yeah, that was mentioned. Unique challenges in male-dominated spaces, but also strong connections among women working across different teams and sports.
One last point there, the difference between private practice PT and working for a team.
A key difference highlighted was patient investment. In private practice, patients often pay directly, so they're usually highly motivated. In a team setting, athletes have tons of resources, which changes the dynamic a bit.
Okay, wow. That was a lot. Let's try and pull it all together. What's the big picture from this deep dive into the NBA's off-court world?
I think the main thing is just the sheer breadth of opportunities, you know? It's so much more than just the players. There's this huge range of careers needing all sorts of different skills, but it also demands real dedication, serious commitment.
Right. And while loving the game is clearly a big driver for people, you've got to be realistic, don't you? About the competition, maybe the starting pay in some areas.
Absolutely. Passion is important, but understanding the realities of the industry is crucial.
So for anyone listening who's inspired by this, the path seems to involve, well, hustle, basically, networking, internships, really focusing your skills.
That's what it boils down to, yeah. Networking came up constantly, internships are key, and developing skills that teams actually need.
Okay, so here's our final thought for you to chew on. We've talked a lot about data, about all these crucial off-court roles. Considering how much the league is evolving, especially with analytics, what roles that maybe aren't getting the spotlight right now might become the most sought after, the most influential in the NBA over the next, say, 10 years?
That's a really interesting question to think about. What's next?
Something to ponder. Thanks for exploring all this with us today.